All right, so we're diving into betrayal trauma today.
Yeah, and what's interesting is we're using a really unique source for this deep dive.
What's that?
It's actually a list of 50 journal prompts
Okay.
for people recovering from betrayal trauma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
50 prompts. That's a lot.
it is a lot to unpack. And what
All
I
right.
thought was really interesting is it's actually not like a therapist's guide or anything like that. It's actually just straight from a product description for a journal.
Oh, wow. That's how
Yeah.
people are approaching this these days, huh?
It really is.
So interesting.
Yeah, but with 50 prompts,
Yeah.
we're going to help you sift through all that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We'll definitely dissect all that for you. But I mean, even just starting with the source material, it doesn't shy away from like the rawness of what this is, like the initial darkness and confusion, like those words are used.
And it's so real, right? Like when you first uncover a betrayal, it's like the floor drops out from under you.
Totally. So what just happened?
Yeah. And, the healing can only really begin when we acknowledge those visceral emotions.
Yeah, there's this one prompt here that really hit me.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you first found out?
I know, right? Because so often our instinct is to just like shove those feelings down as far as they'll go.
Right. Like if we don't acknowledge it, maybe it didn't really happen.
Exactly. But we both know that never works.
Never works.
Suppressing those emotions only delays the healing process.
Mhm.
So even just putting pen to paper, even if it's just in your own journal, is a huge step.
It's like you have to acknowledge the storm is even happening before you can start to think about rebuilding after it.
Exactly. And rebuilding looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach, but these journal prompts, they encourage introspection.
Totally. Okay, so with that said, I kind of want to transition into talking about self-care because that feels really huge in this conversation.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
It's so crucial. I think one prompt that really stood out to me was write about a place that makes you feel safe. Why does it make you feel that way?
I like that one because it's not just like light a candle, take a bath. It's like getting to that deeper why,
Yes, exactly.
what actually brings you comfort.
And it also connects to those broader self-soothing techniques, whether it's sensory experiences or grounding, or even creating a mental safe space.
Yeah, like a visual thing you can go to.
Exactly.
When things get really hard, it's like building that inner sanctuary brick by brick.
I love that.
And speaking of bricks, the source material uses this really powerful metaphor when it comes to rebuilding trust,
Oh, yeah. They say trust is rebuilt one brick at a time.
which I thought was really interesting because I think sometimes we think of it more like a light switch,
Right.
on or off.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work that way with this.
No,
It takes time, effort, and a lot of self-compassion.
absolutely. And it starts small,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like with trusting yourself again
Exactly.
and then slowly branching out from there if and when you're ready.
And being mindful of who you're letting back in.
Totally. Right. Like recognizing red flags maybe we didn't see before.
100%. Setting healthy boundaries is so important here. And it doesn't mean you're shutting everyone out.
Right.
It's just about protecting your well-being as you heal.
It's so true. And you know what's interesting as we kind of move through this whole idea of boundaries, I'm seeing this really interesting shift from vulnerability to resilience in these prompts.
Oh, totally. And it's that whole thing of, yeah, this was a major blow, but you're stronger than you think you are.
Exactly.
There's one prompt that asks, what's one way you've shown strength during this tough time?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Because even in the midst of like all the hurt and confusion, like you were saying, we still find those little ways to keep going.
Absolute.
And those small acts of courage, they feel so big at the time.
Huge. Yeah, like reframing the experience. Because betrayal is traumatic. There's no doubt about that.
For sure.
But it can also reveal this inner strength you maybe never even knew you had before.
Totally. You know, it reminds me of that Viktor Frankl quote where he says, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves,
Wow. Yeah.
which I feel like really applies here.
It totally does.
Because it's like you said earlier, rebuilding that trust one brick at a time, that takes some serious resilience.
It does. And it requires us to confront those parts of ourselves that maybe we've been avoiding.
Ooh, that's deep.
Right. Like the parts that maybe even made us susceptible to being betrayed in the first place.
Yeah, and it really highlights how this whole journey isn't just about the other person.
It's about you.
Yeah, it's about our own growth and self-discovery.
It's about you understanding your own patterns, your own boundaries, your own needs, so
Wow.
you can move forward with way more strength and awareness.
It's not just about surviving the betrayal, but using it to like transform yourself.
Yes, taking all that raw, messy energy
Yeah,
and channeling it into something that serves you, something positive.
totally. You know, it makes me think of kintsugi,
Oh, yeah.
that Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold.
Beautiful analogy.
Because it's about recognizing that those broken pieces are part of what makes the piece unique and valuable.
Exactly.
And those golden cracks, they tell a story. They
Totally.
don't diminish the beauty. They, like, enhance it.
They do. And so while we don't want to minimize the pain of betrayal at all, really encourage you to look for those glimmers of gold, those opportunities for growth and transformation.
Yeah. And that really brings us to this sense of hope and possibility that I feel like emerges as you move through these prompts. There's this, like, palpable shift from the weight of what happened to this lighter, more hopeful energy, you know?
Totally. It's like there's a bunch of prompts that are all about the future you, the person you're becoming through this whole thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's one, it's like, what would your ideal future look like? Like totally free from this, betrayal.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's amazing because it makes you realize you can like rewrite the ending to this whole thing.
totally. It's not over, right? It's just a new chapter.
The product description uses that exact phrase.
Does it really?
Your story isn't over, it's just a new chapter.
I love that.
You get to write that chapter.
It's so true. Like, you still have the pen in your hand, which I think is so empowering.
You absolutely do. And healing takes time. But these prompts can be, really incredible tools
For sure.
for self-discovery.
And I think so often we just want to, like, fast forward, like, get to the end, like, I'm over it.
Exactly.
But these prompts are all about, like, sitting with it, being present in the process.
Because the messy stuff, that's where the good stuff happens.
Totally.
In those moments where you're really looking at yourself, with compassion and seeing your own strength.
It's like, yeah, this happened. It was awful. But I'm still here, and I'm choosing to move forward.
Yes,
It's a choice.
exactly. And, you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, that's so important. Because we're talking about journaling and self-reflection, but healing usually involves other people.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's a therapist or a support group or just like a really good friend
Right. Someone you trust.
to process this stuff with, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's like having someone to hold the lantern while you're, navigating the dark.
Totally. And to remind you how strong you are when you forget.
For sure. So as you're, going through these journal prompts, think about who those people are for you.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to reach out. You'd be amazed by how much healing can happen when we let ourselves be vulnerable.
It's like that saying, shared joy is doubled, shared sorrow is halved.
That's beautiful. And it's so true. Betrayal can be so painful, but it doesn't have to define you. You're strong, you can heal, and you can create a future that's, full of joy and trust.
So well said. You heard it here. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning, and we are here for it.